Greetings again, friends, and welcome to another exploration of what Australia's biggest selling newspaper wants you to know today. Today being a Sunday, the paper being the Sunday Telegraph. What have we got within? So, front page, Lions. It's just a pretty generic shot of lions. Sydney Zoo roars to life, they say. Sounds like an advertising feature to me. And exclusive Channel 9's Radical League plan, dump an NRL club. Bread and butter Sydney footy clubs are among candidates for the axe from the NRL so Brisbane can have a second team. Rugby League broadcaster Channel 9 wants a new club north of the border by 2023 as part of a renewed multi-billion-dollar broadcast deal. However, it does not want to expand the league to 17 teams, meaning Cronulla Sharks, Manly Sea Eagles, or the Gold Coast Titans are possible casualties, Phil Rothfield reports. I would say the Gold Coast Titans are the most likely to make a small relocation. Boy, axing Scott Morrison's team would be an interesting move to observe. So, mixed picks. What does the editor think is the best thing in his newspaper? The TV guide. The most irrelevant and useless part of the paper since, I don't know, it was probably about, 3 years ago that all the TV stations moved to having on-demand apps. So single women are among the fastest growing category of homeowners in the country. We reveal how you too can do it alone on the property ladder. So that's Body and Soul is also doing real estate this week. Sydney Zoo is mixed pick number 3, so definitely an ad feature. Hot tickets and how to, fingers crossed, score them with a picture of Elton John. Something about Eva Longoria. Eva's noticed there's room for more than one woman at the top, and I salute her for noticing that. No jab, no play campaign, free flu shot for kids. They just want vaccines everywhere, don't they? Don't get me wrong, vaccines are awesome. I support vaccination. Just saying, with vaccination rates at the highest they've ever been in this country's history, you've got to wonder what the other agenda of this campaign is. Oh, and they're tooting the horn of the phenomenal success of their campaign. Well, good on them. They have achieved their goal, and we now have the highest vaccination rates in the country's history. All right, we've got a whole page ad for Chicago. That's the Chicago musical at the Capitol Theatre. Certainly I know a lot of people who are going to see it, so that's good. It does have Natalie Bassingthwaighte in it, which people have got mixed views on, but I think she's quite good in this sort of role, so nah. All right, you know what? We're off to a cracking start. We've hit page 5. It's time for some coffee from the sippy cup. Alright, Phil Rothfield says don't get rid of the greats. This is about what football teams they're going to axe. When you've got two iconic sides, one of which the Prime Minister is a rabid supporter of, you feel very nervous for the third one, which is a relatively new arrival, being the Gold Coast Titans, and 2, you wonder if they aren't angling for some funding here. Right, abortion threatens to send Lib to crossbench. This is the fresh revolt. Liberal MP Tanya Davies is talking about quitting the party if her amendments aren't adopted. Government whips just don't seem to be doing the job they used to do they? Right, ScoMo to end silence on gifts. Secret registers detailing how senior bureaucrats are wined and dined by businesses will be made public after Scott Morrison personally intervened following a Sunday Telegraph investigation. Certainly, $1,000 gift voucher to David Jones doesn't seem like a gift really as much as a bribe, does it? Miranda Kerr is pregnant and reckons she can have it all. She probably can. Alright, Badgerys Creek, they say is moving forward, which literally I can remember as a 10-year-old hearing talk of Badgerys Creek, and that's, without wanting to give too much away, over a quarter of a century ago. So we've got someone talking about how his boy's smile is the best Father's Day gift. He had to give the child a kidney. Yeah, I wish them all well. Not sure it's news, but I don't mind one or two human interest stories in a 150-page newspaper. I just mind when there's no news. But I'm not going to blame the individual recipients of the news. So we've got a 2-page spread. Guardian angels with a gun watching over us. So this is The Secret Life of a Police Sniper, says Charles Miranda. I mean, this police PR stuff, it gets the clicks, I'm guessing, so why not? And a little bit of transparency, not much, just a controlled level of transparency to what goes on in these organisations is something to at least get on the record. And so apparently Annalise Brackensack left nothing to her ex-husband, and why would it? So blood cancer is tipped to be the next big cancer. Rebecca Digirolamo tells us blood cancer cases will more than double over the next 15 years, claiming the lives of 186,000 Australians and becoming the leading cause of cancer death. I would guess we're going to get better at treating that one as it takes up that role. Apparently Mac Horton has missed out on a huge sponsorship opportunity with Coca-Cola for being controversial, they say. Well, a bit disappointing, Coca-Cola. You'd have thought maybe someone who sticks vociferously to their guns might be a good role model, but the Chinese market is a lot of money. So yeah, the zoo has lions. Albo calls for Labor cultural change. This is like a little tiny thing on page 15. Labor leader Anthony Albanese has declared the need for cultural change within the New South Wales arm of the party, describing the evidence emerging from the ICAP inquiry as extremely serious. I mean, Albo has been part of the New South Wales ALP for 40-odd years, but good that he thinks it's serious. He says it's clear there's a need for substantial change. I think, for me, the interesting thing is that neither in a good or a bad way did they have procedures in place for dealing with a great big bag of cash turning up. It could have been worse in that they might have known exactly what to do and would never have heard about it, or it might have been everyone in the party knew that you don't accept bags of cash on behalf of the party, and it never became an issue. It's a funny place to get caught, but it's always nice when some of the stuff gets dragged into the light, isn't it? So we've got a story, video, see the drinking session. So drunk on soju, 86 shots in 6-hour birthday binge. That sounds awful. After downing 86 glasses of the potent Korean liquor soju in a 6-hour birthday binge, it was a night the 5 friends probably can't remember, but for the licensee, it will be difficult to forget he's facing a first strike from the Liquor and Gaming Authority. One of the female... I think we heard about this story a few months ago. One of the female revellers became so drunk she was carried from the venue and was later found unconscious near a pool of vomit in the early hours of the morning. It's one of those things restaurants tend not to have the same emphasis on responsible service of alcohol that pubs do, but often when people are sitting down for multiple hours and eating food and having drinks brought to their table, things can get out of hand, and frankly, very few bars will serve neat spirits anymore, and I get that it's cultural. More than one round of soju to a table might well be something that a smart establishment wouldn't do. This is a nice one. Anti-bikie police found cocaine worth millions and a cache of loaded guns hidden in a fake air conditioning unit inside a penthouse in Sydney South. Well, it's very clever. It's a shame it's been rumbled now, but everyone's going to be getting their aircon units torn apart as well, which is, no one's going to thank them for that. Sally Fitzgibbons, she's great. Paper thinks she's great as well. Got a nice picture of her. Surfer, so I'm talking sport. Hounds on track to race in the West. Western Sydney could become home to a new greyhound racing track. Isn't that great? Nearly got rid of the animal cruelty mill that is the greyhound racing, and now they're expanding as they recover from their near-death experience. I guess you've got to drive out the demographic footprint so you can make it even harder to get rid of you. FOMO and rates driving a frenzy for old dumps. Auctions reflecting last boom in 2013. So, on the plus side, the Reserve Bank's succeeded in reviving the housing market with its interest rate cuts. That's good that the government's still got some control over the economy. And, I mean, all these people redoing all these old dumps will definitely spend a lot of money. So, that's good too. Jack Morfoot's having a whinge that despite recent rain, the dam levels haven't gone up. You tend to need consistent rain over a long period to affect those sorts of things. Apparently we're winning the fight to save sick kids. Picture of photogenic kid. The Source with Annika Smethurst, Linda Silmarlis and Miranda Wood. Keith dumps Don for Jen. Australia's First Lady, Jenny Morrison, mingled with world leaders and their wives at the G7 summit in France, unfazed by the political star power on display. But according to her husband, there is one person the easygoing mum of two would be lost for words around: country music star Keith Urban. Sorry, that's Keith Trumpston for Jen, not Dumps. So, what we seem to have here is a gush about the Prime Minister's wife being in company with other world leaders' wives, which frankly is a pretty negative message to send to the women of the world, isn't it? So apparently Conchetta Fierravanti-Wells is planning to move down to the lower house and challenge Chris Bowen for his Western Sydney seat. That says to me she's been rolled for pre-selection and knows it. Not that Chris Bowen's unbeatable, but I love this. Once Labor heartland, Mr. Bowen's margin in the seat of McMahon was slashed at the last federal election to 6.6%. You'd need a pretty big landslide to the Liberals, which sounds sadly less unlikely than it would have sounded 6 months ago, for Conchetta's, in my view, limited star power to overcome the similarly limited star power of Chris Bowen. Anyway, I'd put money on Chris in that fight. So the Liberal Party member who registered the davesharma.com.au domain name has been suspended from the party for 5 years for trying to extort the party. And a party member who has set up a YouTube channel to broadcast the internal workings of the Liberal Party has been reprimanded. Good that we're getting the inside goss from Liberal HQ. We're calling someone Australia's dumbest crook, or we're asking, is he Australia's dumbest crook, which is a nice way to cover your bets. Certainly, it's a very impressive face and neck tattoo going on there. And I wonder if the photogenic nature of the friend he's leaning on had anything to do with that photo selection. But apparently he tried to smuggle $100,000 from Sydney to Perth and texted his girlfriend, and of course his face is somewhat distinctive, and he didn't check the thresholds for criminal cases. So I don't know if he's the dumbest crook going. Years of doing crime reporting have introduced me to quite a few. I'm not saying criminals are dumb, I'm saying the dumb ones are the ones that get caught. The smart ones are partners in law firms. Calls for inquiry into Cult, a universal medicine based in northern New South Wales, run by a former tennis coach who claims to be the reincarnation of Leonardo da Vinci. He offers treatments such as esoteric breast massage and ovarian readings. Well, as long as people know what they're getting into. Apparently Myer is turning its stores into nightclubs, which is good because no one wants to go to their stores as stores. Thursday night has lost its sparkle, but a new initiative aims to put the pop back into shopping. Myer hopes to lure customers back into some of its stores by making them more like nightclubs than shopping centres, with pumping music, dimmed lighting, and a free glass of bubbly. You know, I've often had people try to get me to come to their functions by offering me free warm white wine. And outside of, you know, your early 20s when you really don't have a lot of money, and I'm not saying I've got a lot of money now, but I know what I like, and it's probably not going to be given out free at these events. And the idea of going into a retail environment decked out as a nightclub, and being given a free glass of lukewarm brut, domestic brut at that, I can't think of anything worse. On the other hand, as you might have observed, I'm not the target market, but I question whether Myer is going to get the it girls they crave with this initiative. Oh well, good luck to them. I hope I'm wrong for their sake. So the disgraced Billabong tycoon has become engaged, which is nice. Police are appealing for the public's health following a ram raid on a shop in the state's Hunter region. Heroes in Blaze rescue. Ava Betty Morrison getting a byline on that. Fatal crash linked to trucks. Heavy vehicles from a company linked to a double fatal crash in the state's Central West last year were among nearly 1,600 trucks targeted by a police operation. Okay, we got a whale out of water. Humpbacks off Sydney Harbour. How Legacy saved us. Navy Widows tribute to charity. And Legacy Week does in fact begin today. And look, I have nothing but admiration for the work Legacy does. I would question the way the Telegraph's gone about promoting non-news as a feature, but Legacy, tip my hat to you. Buy a pen. Buy a good one. $20. Come on, 25. Everyone will be very impressed. For those who don't know, Legacy provides support to the families and children of injured and departed veterans of the wars we insist on fighting, and anything that helps those families, I think is a good idea. So the Nepean Hospital's been hit by a burst water main. So the Telegraph is gloating about the failure of a wave power pilot operation. Not everything that you try works, and anything that you're trying to do in the sea, it's a pretty hostile environment. So apparently Alan Moffat is fighting for his life. Looks like he's had a good innings so far. Car slams into power pole. The snitch. Right, Law and Order. Pizza with drug topping. It was a comical scene that wouldn't have been out of place in TV series Fat Pizza. That's a dated and lumbering pop culture reference. So actor Johnny Boxer has landed himself in Newtown local court charged with drug possession and riding a bike without a helmet. The 6-year-old Campsie man was discovered by casting agents at Bondi decades ago. He's best known for his role as Bobo, the gruff but hilarious chef in Fat Pizza. Apparently there's another season of Fat Pizza coming, so I question whether this isn't some sort of publicity stunt. On April 28 last year, a nervous and sweating Boxer was riding on the footpath in Erskineville when police pulled him over. According to police allegations tendered in court, Boxer became argumentative, non-compliant when officers tried to search the front pocket of his jeans. He threw himself to the ground, declaring, "My legs are effed." Right on cue, a small, clear bottle with the liquid drug GBL rolled on the footpath at the feet of the bemused officers. Court documents state Boxer then suggested police were attempting to frame him. "You guys found that on the footpath and put it in my pocket," he said. He didn't think that one through. Boxer later said the drug was to help alleviate pain caused by a motorbike accident, but when his day in court came last week, the magistrate revealed Boxer had a long history of drug offences. His lawyer pointed out that while he was currently employed, he was looking forward to returning to the set of Fat Pizza. He got credit for pleading guilty to the offences and was fined $600 in total for both offences. Yeah, well, like I said, that some good publicity for the show. Also, Salim Mahaja's now infamous wedding revealed that the jailed property developer is fond of the limelight. Ugh, what is up with these setups? It has now become apparent Mahaja doesn't care if he's getting attention for his lavish nuptials or having his face splashed across the TV news. He's advertising for another personal assistant. They're always funny. The New South Wales Police Homicide Squad has a new detective inspector, Virginia Gorman, who the snitch has been surprised there are no photos of her available that they can get hold of. We're probably going to see more and more secrecy like that in years to come. I think the days of being able to get easy photos of important people off Facebook are going to drift into history. We've also got a story about a young Jaden who's received part of his dad's liver. 2 dads donating organs to their kids' stories, which sounds like the editorial meeting missed a trick, but good luck to both of them. Or all 4, really. And a happy Father's Day to them. Right, just rugby league. People doing stuff as usual. Pretty good photography. Escape features fat old man. Body and Soul says you should be buying real estate for your well-being. This message brought to you by the real estate agents who collectively keep the newspaper in some semblance of life. Jessica Halloran is telling us that Serena Williams is the greatest of them all, the best athlete on the planet. I'm not going to argue. So we've got ads for rail journeys and cruises. Okay, and here on page 86, we get some world news. Although I will say, page 85, we have a page on an Australian family who are helping some Solomon Islanders build a school. I hope that isn't one of those things where foreign aid is a tricky area. Lead world story is Duke back at work trying to save name. And they're referring to Prince Andrew, who is also the Duke of York, although if I was picking a title, I would go with the senior one myself. Yeah, I mean, I don't know what Prince Andrew can actually do right now, because it's not like he can resign from being the Queen's son. And without specific reference to the Jeffrey Epstein case, you do wonder when you've got a reputation as a playboy in your youth and a lot of time on your hands, if this is just what happens, you end up looking the way Prince Andrew's looking. So Mexico's drug war is back on, and they say it's worse than the last one. Well, This is what happens when you park next to the world's biggest drug market, which is the United States. Apparently an idiot's been caught in New York, a 19-year-old who was plotting a knife attack on behalf of Islamic State. I mean, if you live in the US and the best you can plan is a knife attack, you're sorely lacking in ambition. Donald Trump says we don't have a deal with the Taliban yet, that could have been a headline for the last 20 years. Protesters defy rally ban, says it's Hong Kong. Hong Kong is ongoing, is all we're getting out of that. So in Italy, the Northern League is saying they'll never form a coalition with Forza Italia, which does limit the options for forming government in Italy. Hurricane Dorian is moving in on the US. I imagine we'll see lots of pictures on that. And enemies unite to attack PM Boris. That's the least inspired headline I've ever seen. And Brazil is claiming that the Amazon's fires are out, which is right of a par with their claiming there were no fires in the first place. And so we come on page 89 to Peter Credlin, who, looking at the Bilalila case, where even Alan Jones has been moved to compassion, Peter says we cannot fail this test of our borders, and I can't even read it. Also, she says ALP is rotten to the core. Also, not also, but I don't particularly disagree with her. I would just question whether the Liberal Party's any better. And Peter Gleeson asks us if the Labor Party needs to woke up to itself and ditch the left. Which is odd, because it's the right of the party that's taken the money in Aldi bags. But alright, let's see what garbage Peter's spewing. Oh, here's the complaint. What has happened to the Australian Labor Party? Rather than being the party of the worker, it has become the party of the woke. Well, wokeness has a little bit to say about economic opportunity and inequality and things that might be somewhat important to the worker. Not this idiot's mind, though. Mark Boris, the man who commits illegal electoral communications, is talking about how great real estate is. Fantastic. Greg Hunt's talking up his vaccine crusade. Piers Ackerman, not dead yet, says we could easily power our country on a bonfire of vanities. Oh, he's attacking Greta Thunberg and the Northern Beaches Council's vote to declare a climate emergency. Evil people saying evil things for the benefit of even more evil people. And a lot of people, and it won't be the wealthy, are going to really suffer as a result of this. Right, Claire Harvey is writing how much she loves a man in hot pants and killer heels. Talking about the queer eye star and superhero for a new generation, Jonathan Van Ness. Alright, so that's a non. Right, huge win for No Jab campaign, says the Telegraph, congratulating themselves. Warren has an utterly unfunny cartoon with Dastiari bringing a bag of cash to Anthony Albanese. Actually, there's no cash shown, it's just an Aldi bag. You know, it's funny, there isn't actually that much real estate advertising in this paper, but boy, they do a lot of lip service to the real estate industry. There's a whole page of people sending in their old photos just so boomers can have their nostalgia. People are still getting married. Kitchen gets 1.5 stars in movie reviews. The Farewell gets 3.5. Amazing Grace, which is the Aretha Franklin retrospective, is 4.5 stars. Nothing sells like boomer nostalgia in this lot, does it? So we're nearly done, and aside from telling people that climate change isn't real and anyone wanting to do anything about it is mad and bad, yeah, that's it. Duncan Lay, trying to find reason for existence post Game of Thrones, got 10 shows to watch with your dad. Peaky Blinders, Succession, Black Mirror. If you haven't discovered Black Mirror yet, come on. And then Game of Thrones, yeah. If Game of Thrones was starting again and my dad had the time available, I would happily watch it with him. But the idea of sitting down now and starting season 1, episode 1, with a view to crunching through 80 odd hours of entertainment with your parents, particularly with the amount of sex and nudity, doesn't sound like a great bet to me. He does suggest Stranger Things. Brooklyn Nine-Nine, which I quite like Brooklyn Nine-Nine, but it's a show that doesn't do anything or go anywhere, and I find a lot of people who like it are kind of boring. And Legends of Tomorrow, which is also a bit meh, but is on Foxtel, so he's certainly promoting a lot of Netflix, although I guess they are kind of sort of in the Foxtel family now. Duncan Lay, having moved on from Game of Thrones, wants to talk about Star Wars. Oh, he's worried he's not going to like the end. You know what? There'll be some whining fanboys. I mean, fundamentally, as someone who's thought of himself as a Star Wars fan for most of my life, it's just a property of a huge mega corporation now. It's a bit entertaining, but any virtue it might have once had seems long lost. Well, that was a superficial romp through the world of distraction. Thank you so much for being part of this, and do tell your friends. So like and share. The more uptake we get, the more we can do. Thanks, folks. See you next week.